Hello, a very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News and Friday night's calendar.
Hello, thanks very much for joining us. Here's a look ahead to what's coming up tonight.
Heartbroken families who won their fight to save their West Yorkshire school from closure discover they'll have to do it all over again.
I just feel absolutely devastated. I think it took so much effort and heartache from so many people, parents and staff here.
Could York be the first city in the region to bring in a tourist tax?
I would not agree with that idea.
Personally, I'm for it, so I don't mind paying a couple extra quid here and there, so yeah.
How much could it be and what would the cash be used for? Plus,
We'll hear from both camps as Leeds get ready to welcome Sheffield Wednesday with Yorkshire bragging rights up for grabs. And
Oh, thank you. That is so very, very good of you.
tributes to Northern Lincolnshire's celebrated star of stage and screen, Dame Joan Plowright, who's died at the age of 95. Good evening. First, a head teacher in Leeds says his school has been left in utter disbelief after being told it was under threat of closure for the second time in less than 3 years.
Queensway Primary in Yeadon was first threatened with closure in 2022, but parents and staff successfully fought to save it.
They say they were told that would be the end of the story, but this week they found out that come Monday, Leeds City Council will launch another consultation on the future of the school. Amelia Beckett reports.
Banging the drum again in a bid to save their school. It's less than 3 years since teachers and parents here at Queensway Primary in Yeadon successfully fought against its closure. But this week they found out it's under threat again, and it's hit them hard.
It was just a real kind of air of disbelief and just real lack of faith in the system, in that we've jumped through hoops, we've done so much, and the community, the staff, the school, the children, to put us in this position where we finally got to a point where we feel that we're taking the school forward, and then to have that brought to our door, it was just, it beggars belief in that you lose faith in the system.
The council says financial pressures and a low number of 5-year-olds living in the area have put the school's long-term sustainability at risk. But since 2022, the school has improved its Ofsted rating and increased special educational needs provision for the almost 50% of children here with additional needs.
I've been involved with the school all my life. I was a pupil here.
Nick is now a foster carer and credits the school for keeping his 3 foster children in mainstream education.
I've been their carer for 18 months. They have been at this school since preschool. This has been the one constant in their life, and one of them has additional needs. All 3 of them have suffered extreme trauma. This is their family as much as I am, and to take them away and to ask them to adjust to something else would just be heartbreaking for them.
Last time this happened, one of the reasons they won their campaign was the strength of community spirit here.
And having already fought to save this school once before, the children here are more than prepared to save their school again.
Save our school! Save our school!
I just feel sad because it's like we've already been through it once and I don't want to go through it again.
Yeah, and you all fought really hard last time, didn't you?
Yeah, I feel really sad as well.
I don't think it's fair because they've already put us through it once. It would be really sad if I have to leave because I've been here since the first year.
But the timing is just horrendous.
And Head of Governors Peter says the shock of this news has been compounded by the fact they were given assurances last time about the school's future.
We feel that there's a bit of lack of trust, really, especially as the last consultation we were told categorically that this wouldn't happen to us again by a local councillor. But here we are again, facing the same issue. So to hear the news of closure, it just floored us.
Leeds City Council says the consultation will start on Monday and last for 3 weeks. Those at the school say they'll do whatever it takes to make sure these gates don't close for good. Amelia Beckett, ITV News, Yeadon.
And of course, we'll let you know what happens with that story. Now, next tonight, how would you feel about paying a so-called tourist tax to stay overnight in York? Well, that's the debate raging between politicians, residents and the hospitality industry after plans to charge hotel guests extra were raised in Parliament with the Prime Minister.
Now, York City Council wants powers to introduce a compulsory charge on overnight stays, costing visitors up to a couple of pounds per night. Now, it could raise millions for the local economy.
But hoteliers and tourism bosses have been left divided over it all, as Jonathan Brown has been finding out.
Their streets well trodden by tourists, more than 9 million last year alone. York is so popular, in fact, that some believe visitors would and should pay more to stay here.
Quite a lot of them are surprised that there isn't a tourist levy here already.
Pete's among the politicians proposing a so-called tourist tax of £1 or £2 per night stayed in the city's hotels. As it stands, venues can voluntarily agree to do so, but he's calling for powers that would make it compulsory.
We're lucky enough to live in a city that millions of people want to come and see, enjoy, spend time in every year. Yeah, which is great, but it does bring its challenges. And we think if there was a tourism levy, that would help address some of those challenges. We could spend it on cleaning up the city and improving it.
York's heritage charm last year led to 1.7 million overnight stays in the city's hotels. Charging £1 or £2 per night through a new levy, therefore could raise up to 3.4 million annually. But with many visitors already facing spiralling bills, those who'd have to add that tax to their customers' stays aren't so sure.
The fear is it becomes a deterrent to visit York.
The newly named Milner York is one of the city's biggest hotels, serving 75,000 visitors every year.
Cost of everything's going to go up from April, especially costs to the hospitality industry through the government's initiative around the national insurance increases and national living wage. People often have less holiday just to tighten their belts.
Visitor attractions too fear the added expense could leave a bitter taste. This museum about the city's chocolate heritage reopened today after a refit of its shop.
You pay to come into quite a few attractions in York, and when you start taking £1 or £2 out of people's pockets, one of those attractions will fall off people's radars because they simply can't afford to do it.
The levy is something York Central MP Rachel Maskell's been calling for years, and this week raised with the current Prime Minister for the first time.
Places can already choose to introduce a voluntary levy on overnight stays. Our focus is supporting industry.
If you think about the price of a cup of coffee in today's currency, £1 a night is not a lot to ask of people to invest back in the city they're visiting.
Would you pay a tourism tax on a hotel stay?
I would not agree with that idea.
Personally, I'm for it, so I don't mind paying a couple extra quid here and there. So, yeah, it's quite a common thing in Italy, actually.
I think there's sometimes too many tourists in Europe, but it's a beautiful city. I don't know what the impact would be, but councils need more money.
With millions more expected to flock to this historic city in the coming year, finding common ground over plans some believe could cut tourism businesses adrift is so far proving difficult. Jonathan Brown, ITV News, York.
Well, I wonder what you think about that story. Would you be happy to pay a bit extra to help the local council out? Or are you paying enough to visit the city already? Let us know on our usual address, calendar@itv.com.
You are, of course, watching Calendar, and still to come before the end of the programme.
How comfortable would you feel doing this? Riding in a car that's got a steering wheel but no driver behind it? Well, it could be the future.
I'm at Ellen Road with the build-up to Sunday's big Yorkshire derby between Leeds United and Sheffield Wednesday, which is live here on ITV.
And what about this weekend's weather? Any rainbows? Nope. Any more snow? Nope. Any more widespread hard frost and icy stretches? Probably not. And any sunshine? Maybe a little bit. All the detail a little later on.
Yes, see you shortly, Kerry. Thank you. Now then, the Disability Minister has told this programme that the government will build more adapted housing. Comments that came after a Calendar investigation found a lack of wheelchair-accessible homes available through councils across our region.
Hannah Norbury has been following this story and she's with us in the studio tonight. Just remind us, Hannah, what you found.
Well, we asked all the councils across the region how many people are currently waiting for a wheelchair accessible home and found there's at least 1,200. And this means there's people who are struggling to live independent lives or simply not able to move around their homes. One woman we spoke to actually ended up in hospital because she was having to crawl up and down the stairs. Now, councils have told us they're facing a huge demand for affordable housing right across the board.
So what's the Disability Minister had to say? Because we've caught up with him, haven't we?
Well, Sir Stephen Timms is a minister responsible for issues like this. We showed his department the findings of our investigation and he had this to say.
We've committed to building 1.5 million homes over the lifetime of this Parliament, and that will include provision of adapted homes within that number. But it's a very important subject that you've identified. It is a priority for the government, and we'll be looking to local councils in their planning policies and setting out the targets, meeting the targets for their area to make sure the provision is in place.
Well, I'm sure the people we've been speaking to will be watching very closely to see what progress the government makes on this issue.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Hannah, and do keep us up to date with any developments on that. And of course, it is worth heading to our website actually to see more on this story, which we know that so many of you have got strong opinions about. The website is the usual address. It's itv.com/calendar.
And elsewhere, the government has promised it'll do all it can to help local councils fund grassroots sports facilities after Calendar highlighted cost-cutting plans for Crown Green bowling clubs in Leeds. This was Hare Hills Park Bowling Club earlier this week, which is among 30 sites under threat. The council claims participation is down and closures will save around £140,000 in the next year. But members say more people are taking up the sport and it is a focal point of the community.
Many of the things that they've been unable to fund are around leisure and sport and recreation. As a government, we're determined that that's going to change. We've announced new funding into grassroots facilities and we're determined to work with local councils to help ease the pressures on them so that they can do more.
Now then, we've got a question for you. How would you feel about getting into a car that, well, doesn't have a driver? How would you feel?
I don't know, I'd be a bit scared, I think.
I'd be a bit nervous, yeah. Well, driverless vehicles could be on roads where we live from as early as next year, and tests are already underway.
Driverless taxis are already operating in other parts of the world, including the American city of San Francisco, from where Kevin Ashford reports.
It's travel, but not as we know it. Well, not just yet anyway. This cab I've ordered in the heart of San Francisco is missing something you might normally expect in a taxi. Now, if you're not used to this mode of transport, I have to say it does take a little bit of getting used to. I mean, it's perfectly comfortable, modern feeling interior to the cab, but there's no getting away from the fact there's a steering wheel and there's no one behind it. Robotaxis currently operate in 3 American cities, but driverless vehicles like them are not allowed on UK roads at the moment without a human behind the wheel, although that could change as soon as next year, provided safety standards are met. But is the general public here ready for such a motoring revolution? We asked people in Barnsley what they thought of the idea of self-driving vehicles.
I think I'd feel a bit nervous about it.
I don't have faith in technology, basically. I like to be in charge.
No, because just imagine like the crashes and stuff that could happen. Nobody's there to stop it happening.
And in Yorkshire and northern Lincolnshire, a recent survey by a car data company found that less than a sixth of those questioned would trust a self-driving car, and only 13% thought they'd make roads safer.
One of the interesting things from the survey was that quite a high proportion of people recognise that they already do have a lot of these systems, the early levels of autonomous driving operating in their cars. So there actually are things that they're giving control to the car in those areas. And, you know, they're familiar with that, they're getting used to it.
So we have a number of radars on the vehicle.
The first driverless vehicles we're likely to see operating on UK roads, according to this software company, is something like this, a minibus used as a shuttle on a short, repeatable route.
We're hoping that people are really quite relaxed on board. We're always going to have a safety operator on board, as is the regulation in the UK, and so there's always going to be somebody there as well to help answer questions from public passengers.
Other autonomous vehicle uses in the near future are likely to be at airports and ports, moving goods and people around.
We don't think, for economic reasons, that there's going to be self-driving personal cars first. We think that's in the North Star, but it's not first. And so we're very, very commercially focused on building this AI technology that serves a real purpose right now.
Autonomous vehicles like these are already on our roads testing software, but always with a safety driver. The government says it'll outline its timetable for regulations governing the sector in the near future. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Well, whatever you think about it, it's certainly very clever, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coming our way as well.
Well, now, time to look ahead to the weekend sport and a big Yorkshire derby in football's championship.
Xero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Now, for the first time since 2002, a Football League match will be broadcast live right here on ITV this weekend. And in their infinite wisdom, the powers that be have chosen our region to host that landmark occasion.
Yeah, and why
It's
not?
good, isn't it?
And the game they've selected is the mouth-watering Yorkshire derby between Leeds United and Sheffield Wednesday on Sunday lunchtime. Well, our sports correspondent, Chris Dawkes, is so excited that he's already there. I don't know whether he's going to spend all weekend there, but Chris, how's it looking?
Yeah, I'm not going to spend all weekend here, Ian, but, you know, I could do. Even though, 42 hours or so until kick-off on Sunday, it's still exciting to be at these places. I'm in the inner sanctum here at Ellen Road, the Players' Tunnel. It's where the Leeds and Sheffield Wednesday players will line up ahead of that big Yorkshire derby, and then they'll walk down this tunnel out onto this pitch to a cacophony of noise. Over 36,000 fans will greet them. I've got to say thanks to Leeds United, actually, for putting the lights on for us this evening. And talking of Leeds United, well, they're currently top of the championship table by that just one solitary point from their nearest rivals, Burnley and Sheffield United. They've drawn their last two championship matches, but they did win their last game here at Ellen Road against Harrogate in the FA Cup last Saturday. Now, head coach, manager Daniel Farker has been speaking to the media today. Our colleagues from ITV Sport went down to speak to him and asked him whether he's feeling the pressure and whether the players are feeling the pressure as well of being the team who are being chased at the top of the championship table.
To be honest, the pressure is always on us, so our supporters always expect us to win more or less in 46 game days, and you always try to deliver. Obviously, it's not possible to win all 46 games because, yeah, otherwise you would finish the season with 138 points, and this never happens anyhow. Yes, you always will speak about extra motivation in a local derby, and of course it's also a special game, and we value this. But to be honest, we always have this pressure, and for that we are used to it.
It's a really special game. So, Chris, what about Sheffield Wednesday? Will they fancy their chances of pulling off, well, a first win at Ellen Road since, when is it, 2018?
Yeah, that's right, Lara. Yeah, why not? They've so far exceeded all expectations this season. They're 10th in the championship table, just 4 points off the playoffs, which when you look at it doesn't sound that great, but when you consider they only just survived in the championship last season, it's really good going for Sheffield Wednesday this year, and you've got to put that down to their head coach, Danny Rule. Now, he's had his critics from the owner especially, not the fans. They love Danny Rule down at Sheffield Wednesday, but this week the owner, Dave Chansiri, had a fans forum. Went over 5 hours. He was asked about his relationship with Danny Rule and whether he'd spoken to him about potential transfers in this current transfer window. Chansiri said he hadn't heard from Danny Rule since December, so there clearly is a breakdown in relationship between the two. Well, our sports correspondent Arif Ahmed went down to speak to Rule and asked him about his relationship with his owner.
Yeah, our chairman is the big boss. Yeah, this is important. Yeah, important is for me the togetherness in the club. We want to achieve something this season, try to get the best results, and of course be ambitions to achieve more.
On Wednesday, he said at the fans forum that you two haven't spoken since December. Why is that?
It should be not a problem to fix this immediately. Yeah, why? I think important is that we come soon together.
Have you spoken to him since Wednesday, or do you plan to speak to him?
Yeah, I will speak. We will speak as soon as possible. Yeah, of course. Now in front of a big match, it's for me really the focus.
Does your ambitions align with the club's ambitions? Because you said January was going to be a big month for this club, and so far, 16 days in, there's been no business, and it appears a rift between you and the owner.
Let's turn it into positive things. We have still 14 days to go, where we can do something good. We know January it's a hard market, but of course, and this is what I tried at the beginning of our interview, the challenge to come closer to the playoffs. It's a tough one.
Has it been a distraction this week? Because you've got a big game against Leeds coming up on Sunday, and then you've got all this noise coming around the fans forum, and you've got players coming out and saying the atmosphere feels a bit tense, and you've got a big game to prepare for.
Yeah, but you have two things now. I can also go with my head down, or I go forward, and this is what I try to focus what we can influence, and this is a good performance. This is also what I told my players, that we have to concentrate to our performance, try everything, be the best team, be the best version of yourself, and if we do this, then we have maybe a small chance in Leeds. Yeah, and we know against such a team, you need a good team performance. You need in the right moment a little bit the luck. But I see as well a team every day now who is pushing, who is fighting, who is attacking, who is defend together. And with this mindset, we will go to Leeds, and we will try our best.
Well, there you go. That's matters off the pitch. Matters on the pitch, well, that's all that matters on Sunday. You can catch every second of it live on ITV. Coverage begins at 11:10.
Yeah, ITV1 and ITVX. Thanks very much indeed, Chris.
Yeah, and Chris was saying actually that it felt quite warm there tonight.
Yeah, lucky Chris. I guess it's all relative to what we had last week, and it will definitely feel a lot colder as we head into the weekend. But we've had quite a lot of cloud around today, and that's the big question mark as we head into the next couple of days. Of course, it can look very beautiful. This video footage actually was taken by Ben Luckman earlier on in the month. When it's low, that cloud, when it sits in the vales and valleys, it looks really quite beautiful. And we have sort of got this situation as we head into the weekend. Probably not as pretty. High pressure, that's air descending, and we basically get what we call a temperature inversion, and that's the cloud basically trapped by a thin layer along that line of warm air. And where we see that cloud, the top and the base can vary considerably. In the forecast for tonight and going through into tomorrow, the cloud top is 500 metres, and that's actually quite high. It means that quite a lot of us could be sitting underneath that cloud. This was also taken earlier on in the month around the new year, but I've not had a chance to show it you. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It was taken at Standedge, which is just southwest of Marsden, right over the tops of the Pennines, almost 500 metres. And of course, these brilliant people here got to see the low clouds sitting in the vales and valleys. I can't promise that that's the forecast, but what I'm trying to say is most parts of the region might be sat in that cloud, certainly tonight and tomorrow morning, and the forecast is coming up very shortly.
Okay, thank you. I love that photograph.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
Thank you. Finally, the tribute to the actress who went from North Lincolnshire to the world stage and a glittering career over 7 decades.
Dame Joan Plowright grew up in Scunthorpe, but she took her talent to Broadway and the big screen as well as the West End.
And it's there where lights are to be dimmed this evening in honour of the 95-year-old whose death was announced today. Emma Hayward reports.
And dearest, you'll have to forgive me. I'm afraid we've got a visitor after all.
In a long and illustrious career, Joan Plowright was one of the grand dames of stage and screen. Married to Sir Laurence Olivier for nearly 30 years until his death, she appeared with her husband in this 1978 Granada television drama. Her roles may have taken her around the world, but she was born in Brigg, to a family who loved the theatre and helped set up a group which is still running today. When Joan left for theatre school, she didn't forget them.
She sent back stuff on voice projection, motivation, and improvisation to her mum, who then fed it into the members of the club.
Dame Joan's magnetic on-stage and screen presence earned her a damehood and countless accolades, including Golden Globes, BAFTAs, and even an Oscar nomination. And in the 1990s, the theatre here in Scunthorpe was named after her.
Our group started in 1949, was started by her mum and dad. She became our president, and it's a role that she's carried on now for the last 69 years.
7 years ago, Dame Joan joined forces with 3 other formidable dames for an intimate and candid look at the lives of actresses and an honest appraisal of working alongside her husband.
It's a great privilege to share in his life, as well as it being, you know, a bit of a nightmare.
Tonight in Scunthorpe, Dame Joan will be remembered, and later the lights will be dimmed across London's West End to honour an icon of stage and screen. Emma Hayward, ITV News in Scunthorpe.
Yeah, and do you know the last time the lights were dimmed was for Sir Timothy West from Bradford. Here's Kerry with the forecast.
Today's forecast: seafood and sugar cube towns. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire weather.
Hello again. Yes, we're heading into the weekend on a fairly cloudy note. We had the best of the clear skies, but frosty conditions first thing this morning with some mist and fog in places, but cloud invading from the south as we head deeper into tonight. You can see on the satellite picture for daylight hours today, we have seen the best of the sunshine to northern parts of the region with a few breaks further south. As we head through into this evening and overnight tonight, it's mostly cloudy under the clearest spells, an initial touch of frost perhaps for parts of North and West Yorkshire. But as we head deeper into the early hours of tomorrow morning, they'll lift a little bit those temperatures. So it's right over the tops of our hills where temperatures will be frosty and foggy by dawn. As we head into tomorrow, then there are Eastern times, 8:13 and 4:21. For tomorrow morning, it's a mostly cloudy start, disappointingly dank, I think, across many parts. But as we head into the afternoon, we are expecting some breaks as the slightly drier continental conditions start to push in. So a little bit drier and brighter into the afternoon, highs of 3, possibly 4 Celsius, but feeling quite chilly where we don't get any sunny spells. And that will be the case as we head into Sunday. More so, I think we are expecting more cloud in general across most parts of the region on Sunday. Temperatures are really going to struggle as well. At best 2, possibly 3 Celsius, really feeling quite chilly. But you can see this weather front out to the northwest. It hasn't really got much rain on it by the time it gets over Ireland, but by the time it gets to us, just producing probably some light rain and drizzle at worst and thicker cloud to start the working week. But we do stay mostly dry all the way through until at least Thursday.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire weather.
Thank you, Kerry. Well, that's all we've time for tonight. Have a wonderful weekend and we will see you shortly.
Yeah, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.